Hey everyone, it's Callum from Cagefront here, and we are back with another predictions and breakdown video with Cory Sandhagen versus Deiveson Figueiredo taking place in Iowa. And with Cory Sandhagen, if he wins, this guy's gotta get a title shot against either Sean O'Malley or Marab, whoever wins that. And then if Figgy wins, he's back in the win column and is definitely close to that title shot and possibly being a 2-division champion. And then in the co-main event, we have got Reinier De Ridder testing the biggest prospect in middleweight, Bo Nickal, to see if that wrestling can really compete with the aggressiveness of Reinier De Ridder's jiu-jitsu, and to see if that striking has improved at all. So without further ado, let's get into the first fight of the card, which is Ivana Petrovic versus Juliana Miller. Now, Petrovic, she's 1-2 in the UFC, but I do think that she won her last fight that she lost against Jamie Lynn Horth, to be honest. And Jamie Lynn Horth is definitely better than Juliana Miller, to be honest. And when we look at Miller in this matchup, aside from her pace and her volume and her cardio, and her BJJ to an extent, but I think it's pretty much on par with Petrovic's anyway, she is the weaker fighter here. Petrovic is more accurate. She's cleaner with the boxing. Granted, her cardio is not as good, and that's where she struggled in later rounds. But overall, with that striking carrying through the first 2 rounds, in combination with Miller's very, very poor head movement, I just believe the striking is just going to be able to get this done for her. I think she's just going to land the cleaner shots overall. Granted, Miller is very durable, but I believe that that is just going to overtake in this fight. And also, Petrovic's actual wrestling is better. She's the stronger fighter too. And that's where I believe it's going to be a 29-28 decision. I do think that she's going to win those first 2 rounds. Miller, I do believe the cardio is going to come through in the third. She's just going to make it scrappy, but too little too late. And I do think that Miller is going to get cut. Now, moving up to Don'Tale Mayes versus Thomas Peterson. So this is an interesting fight because both of these guys have boxing bases and they're in opposite stances, which when we look at Peterson, granted he's had a lot more success recently, but he's going to need to be careful against Don'Tale Mayes, who is in that opposite stance and has the 7-inch reach advantage with the hand speed here, because the lead hand is going to come first, and Don'Tale Mayes around the outside is very good at just sticking the jab, moving along the outside, and just playing that kind of game. But him doing that in this fight is, I think it's going to be pretty difficult because Peterson is more so well-rounded. And granted, Peterson's come off the Big Daddy Gaziev finish, which was pretty rough for him. But aside from that, he's just looked decent. I think he has looked good. He looked good against Muhammad Usman, took him down a couple times. If he's able to take him down, I do believe he can take Don'Tale Mayes down. And I think he's better in the clinch exchanges anyway, because Don'Tale Mayes, realistically, he's got to keep this at range consistently for 15 minutes, which is definitely possible, but it's not favorable. And Thomas Peterson, he does have better wrestling, and when it comes to those clinch-based exchanges, and especially the wrestling and getting this to the ground, Don'Tale Mayes just doesn't really have the answers there. And I think Peterson, he's realistically going to be hungry here. He's going to really want to push the pace in this fight to come back from the Gaziev loss. I think it's going to be a 30-27 win for him with the shots in the clinch and the control time. Moving up to Gaston Bolanos versus Quang Lee. Now, this is an awesome fight. I honestly think that this is going to be one of the, if not the best fight on the card, spoiler for the Fight Card Awards, because Ilia Topuria Jr., aka Gaston Bolanos, had a fantastic underdog win against Cortavius Romius in his last fight, and I'm really riding the train of his at the moment. And Quang Lee is just a guy that's super aggressive, super fast-paced, and is quite well-rounded too. But Gaston Bolanos, this guy, used great Muay Thai in that fight against Cortavius. He had a really nice straight right. He had really nice body kicks as well. And he improved his takedown defense incredibly well as his ground transitions too. And he's only lost to Marcus McGee inside the UFC, who is ranked. So he is definitely a guy that does not need to be slept on, trust me. He looked really, really good all across the board in his last fight. And then with Quang Le, obviously super fast-paced and is quite well-rounded, but he's 0-2 in the UFC, and he's coming off a terrible loss to Xiao Long, which Xiao Long is a fantastic fighter, but he got pieced up so badly through 3 rounds and then got chinned, and I just don't see him coming into this fight just as hungry as Bolanos, to be honest. I think Bolanos has better accurate tools on the feet overall, has a bit better of a submission game, obviously, but with Bolanos and the transition that he showed in his last fight against a submission artist in Cortavius, I just am really confident in his game coming into this matchup. Stylistically, Bolanos has trained for a guy like Quang Le before, and Quang Le doesn't have great offensive wrestling as well to even get it to that point, and he's easier to catch on the feet as well. So I believe if Bolanos can consistently keep this at kickboxing range, I honestly see a finish in this matchup. But Quang Le, he's aggressive. He is honestly pretty good at disrupting the rhythm of fighters within the first 2 rounds. And that's where I do believe Bolanos is going to get the decision overall. It could be a 29-28, depending on Lee's success in terms of just absolutely stifling that rhythm. But I do believe that Bolanos, I'm riding on that train. I think he's going to be able to get it done 30-27. Moving up the card to Marina Rodriguez versus Gillian Robertson. Now, a few fights ago, I would be thinking differently about Marina Rodriguez, but she's like edging on 40 years old now, and her performances as of recent have just not been great. She's won 1 in her last 5, and she's just really been struggling in the clinch exchanges. She's getting tired more towards the end of like the 3 rounds. I mean, in the 3rd round of her fight, she's not looking the best, and especially when she's getting either put in that clinch or she's getting dragged to the ground, and she just doesn't really have those answers. And granted, on the feet with her Muay Thai, just kickboxing in general, she is better than Gillian on the feet overall, but Gillian has seriously been improving. She is looking like one of the most dangerous fighters in the division, and Gillian, she throws half the output, so she's not as active as Marina, but she's actually more accurate overall within just fight to fight, and that's really important in this matchup, because if Marina is somehow able to stop the takedowns of Gillian is still landing on the feet, and Marina doesn't have this amazing KO power. I know she's 7-1 when it comes to KO TKOs, but that was more so earlier on when she had steam on her shots, and she doesn't really, honestly, at this point now. She's more of a volume striker. And Gillian Robertson, the ground game that she has is just so good. I mean, especially with the offensive submission game, but her wrestling has really improved as well. She's got a great diverse arsenal across the board, and I just don't think Marina is going to be able to keep up, especially when it gets to the ground. Now, Marina defensively, when it comes to submissions, she is very good. I mean, she didn't even let Verna Jandiroba submit her, but the problem with that is that she's overly safe. It's like a double-edged sword. She's very hard to submit, but that's because she doesn't allow the openings, and the fact that she doesn't allow the openings means she doesn't take the risks to get back up. So she's kind of just like a sitting duck on the ground, and the decision is just going against her. The time's going against her. And if anyone is going to be able to do that, it's going to be Gillian Robertson. And Gillian Robertson, I honestly believe that she could possibly find a submission in this. But for Marina Rodriguez's defensive track record, within the 15 minutes, I think that she is just going to get drowned out, and I see it being a 29-28 decision here for Gillian Robertson. I think Marina, I think she could find some success in the first round just with the strike speed starting off, but the more this fight drags on, with Gillian's wrestling improvements and obviously her grappling in general, I just believe that she is going to be able to get this one done through especially the 2nd and the 3rd round. Now, moving up to Azamat Bekoev versus the most recent Ultimate Fighter winner, Ryan Loder. And Ryan Loder is going against Bekoev, who decapitated Zach Reese within a round in his last fight. This is just going to be a crazy fight. Definitely a high-level one, but you can definitely expect a finish in one way or another within this fight. This is just going to be hectic. And Bekoev, he is dangerous. He's on a 7-fight win streak at the moment, and then even with Loder's on a 4-fight win streak, and these guys together have 20 finishes between them, and there's only one finish loss, which is a scarf hold submission against Bekoev. And if someone is going to be finishing this fight, I believe it's going to be Azamat Bekoev. But that's going to really come down to Ryan Loder and how good his wrestling is going to be coming into this fight. Because if he can impose his will with that wrestling, then he can definitely take this by a decision. Because he has that like very pure American wrestling background. He's just got very, very good control on top and is very dominant with it. And he's got really nice transitions and very good defensive awareness as well. Because even when he fought Robert Valentin, he completely avoided the submission attempts from him and then got him in a crucifix and just pieced him up. So Loder is very dangerous on the ground. But then on the other side with Bekoev is a very clean finisher. He's got really nice boxing. He's great at all ranges. And he's got a pretty underrated submission game himself. And this being said, I mean, ultimately, this is a very hard fight to pick. And I don't think the odds should be this split, to be honest. But I am going to be going with Bekoev regardless. I think Bekoev, he's just too dangerous on the feet, too explosive. He's got more momentum on his side. And if Bekoev is getting backed up completely, like he's not the greatest on the back foot, but he still does have very nice check hooks. And I think that that's something that's going to work for him, especially against Ryan Loder, who loves the forward pressure. He loves to stand up tall and then, land some nice strikes and then really dig deep for a takedown. I think Bekoev is going to be able to time him well because Bekoev does have some pretty nice hand speed, and I think that he's going to be able to catch Loder within those exchanges, to be honest. And Ryan Loder, honestly, I think that he can find success early. I think he could find success with some pretty nice control, especially within the clinch. But Bekoev, anywhere off that clinch range, to the boxing range, to the kickboxing range, that's where those hands are just really going to come in clutch for him. And I see him getting a KO TKO finish within the second round. I think he's just too dangerous at that boxing to kickboxing range. I think he's going to tag him with a check hook or something, drop Loder, and then ground and pound TKO finish him. Too much power. Moving up the card to Yana Santos versus Miesha Tate. Now, starting with Yana Santos, she did look very good in her last performance against Chelsea Chandler, which shouldn't be that hard, to be honest. But I will say she did utilize very nice kickboxing in general overall, especially with the body kicks. And I do think she is the better striker here. I mean, the statistics just really make up for it, to be honest. And we know Miesha Tate, she's had a million fights, and she's not the greatest striker. She leaves a lot of openings when it comes to the boxing. Just her guard's not fantastic. But the thing that Yana Santos struggles with a lot is close quarter pressure, or obviously being on the ground in general. And that is literally all Miesha Tate. Santos, she's the better striker, and if she can somehow manage to keep this on the feet for the 3 rounds, she will take this fight and possibly even finish Miesha Tate. But Miesha Tate, she's almost 40, but she's very gritty. She's very hard to take out. But I just don't see her having a fun time against a grappler that is as good as Miesha Tate, to be honest. And if you look at Miesha Tate in her last fight, she looked very good against Julia Villa. And she just did not slow down throughout that whole entire fight. She had really, really nice control, was transitioning very well too. And Avila's ultimately better on the ground than Santos. And if Santos is getting there, then she's in a world of hurt, to be honest. And I do believe, because Miesha Tate, granted, she's got 8 submissions, but she is looking more control over submission later in her career. And I do believe it's going to be a 30-27 decision, which I think can be swayed, to be honest, because I think it's just going to be very, very... It's going to be very tricky in terms of Yana Santos with her striking. She is going to land a lot of volume when Miesha Tate is trying to enter. And that's where I believe, honestly, I think Santos could land a lot of volume at points within the 3 rounds starting off. Miesha Tate drags it to the ground towards the end. So we could get like 30-27 splits overall for either one. But I think the control more so of Miesha Tate is going to take this one. I think it's going to be 30-27 Santos, 30-27 Miesha Tate, and then 29-28 Miesha Tate. So it's going to be all over the place. I think it's just one of those fights. Bantamweight women's division is literally that. So I do believe that Miesha Tate's going to get the control, but it's going to be a weird one to score. Moving up the card to Lil Heathen Stevens. Jeremy Stevens is back in MMA after 3 years and is back in the UFC after 4 years. And I'm not complaining. He's gritty as hell. He's always been entertaining. And against Mason Jones, this is going to be really fun. This is going to be a really fun fight. For as long as it lasts, it's going to be an epic fight. I mean, Stevens, we know, we've seen him. He's had a million bloody fights, 50 fights. He has got KO power on his side. He's taken out guys like Josh Emmett and the Superboy Doo Ho Choi as well, which is very impressive. But, that's great, and there's a KO opportunity for him, don't get me wrong. But the problem is the physical drop-off of him. The speed's gone down. You know, the power's still there, but the speed's gone down. The movement, the fluidity, it's just not there like it used to be. And in contrast to a super hungry Mason Jones coming back for his second UFC stint is not the matchup that you want on your return. But Jeremy Stevens is just a mean motherfucker. He doesn't care who he has to fight, and that's what I respect about him. And that being said, though, I just don't disagree with these odds. I think that Mason Jones should be a heavy favorite. And unless Stevens just makes this like a really bloody dirty fight and just really tries to get through Jones' strike defense, or he just leaves his fight IQ and his strike defense back at home and Stevens knocks him out, I don't see any way. I honestly don't see any way. Because, look, Mason Jones, even like in the UFC, like, yes, he didn't have the greatest stint, but he fought guys like Ludovic Klein and was putting it on Ludovic Klein at points as well. And with that kind of opposition that he's fighting, even though he struggled against them, you're comparing Ludovic Klein to Jeremy Stevens. Ludovic Klein is much better. He's a weight class above as well. Obviously, they're fighting in lightweight, but Stevens is a natural 145er, and Jones is more so a natural 155er. So you're even looking at that as well. Jones is the bigger guy. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage. He's taller. He's just got a bigger frame too. And that's, again, not what Stevens needs. And Jones is just very, very good with his forward pressure boxing. He mixes in kicks very well as well. He's good with his clinch game. Sometimes his strike defense isn't the most fantastic, but realistically, it's not something that you can back overall. You're looking for a Jeremy Stevens Hail Mary overhand, but realistically, I just don't see that happening. And with, obviously, the size disadvantage, Mason Jones being the hungrier guy, yeah, Stevens, he's tough as hell, and there's always a chance, but unless it's in a crazy exchange, I think he's getting taken out in this fight pretty badly. I think the size, the power, and most of all, the hunger is going to be getting this one done for Mason Jones within the second to the third round. I think he's just going to cripple the body really well with the body kicks, using nice lead left hooks, and then I think he's just going to take him out on the ground. TKO finish. It's going to be a good fight. Moving up to Sidey versus Cameron Smotherman. Now, this is definitely a fun fight because both of them are very high output boxers, and there's a lot of confidence on the side of Smotherman because he won as a very big underdog against Jake Hadley in his debut on short notice. He looked very, very good, very, very confident, especially as the fight went on, because he was just mixing up his shots incredibly well, used really nice head movement when he was on the defensive too. He did look good, and he's a promising fighter, and that's why the odds are more so a bit closer in this one. And then Sidey on the other side, he is a guy that is as durable as hell. He's got really fast hand speed as well, really nice flick jabs, and he's got overwhelming pressure. And the experience advantage he has as well is very important in this matchup. Regardless, though, I do think that this is a very close fight. I think the odds do suggest that. But I will say that I think the odds are correct. And I do think that Sidey is a guy that's going to be able to get this one done. just. I think the boxing exchanges are going to be incredible in this fight. Very even. Sidey is faster, but Smotherman has better head movement. So it's going to be very interesting to see who lands more. And Smotherman is also, he's good on the offensive too, regardless. So that's where I think, just with the boxing exchanges overall, I think it's going to be super tight. Both of them are very durable too. I ultimately do think that it's going to be a split decision within this that will go Sidey's way. And the reason why I do think it will go Sidey's way is because of the ground game. There's just more opportunities for Sidey when it comes to the ground game overall, especially if Smotherman does panic and he tries to hit a takedown. Sidey is very nice with those guillotine attempts. I think that he's someone that will definitely try and hunt that. Or ultimately he's just more active on the ground. He's just a very active fighter. And I do think that seriously is probably going to be the thing that makes the difference overall. And yeah, just with that experience, the strike speed as well, it's going to be super close. But I think that he's going to be able to get this one done. Do not put this anywhere near your bet slips as well, by the way. Now, moving up to Montel Jackson versus Daniel Marcos. This is a sick fight. This is an extremely awesome fight, but it's an extremely important fight for both guys because Marcos is hunting Jackson's ranked position at 15, and Jackson is hunting Marcos's 0, which the zeros on records are dropping like absolute fucking flies this year. But can Montel Jackson take it? I honestly think that this could be the closest fight on the card, even more than Sidey and Smotherman, because both of these guys are very dangerous strikers. Jackson, he has amazing power. He dropped Julio Arce in their fight badly in the 3rd round, finished Reinier in a round, and then, most importantly, finished Damon Blackshear in 18 seconds. The guy has got 8 career KOs, and then we've got Marcos on the other side, who also has 8 career KOs, and he's incredibly technical with his striking, especially on the outside. He is a very, very technical, high output fighter. But the thing I do like about Montel Jackson is his wrestling game is very underrated, and he's got a very, very good percentage on his takedown accuracy. One of the best in the division, and he has a very weird frame. He's got a 6.5-inch reach advantage. He's just a very, very difficult guy to fight in general. And Marcos, this guy, like, when it comes to takedown defense, he's almost perfect. Like, he's got a 90% takedown defense, about 85 to 90%. And that's against like decent opposition too that have really tried to take him down because they don't want any of it on the feet with him. And Montel Jackson is not going to be a guy that's going to shy away from that. But there's so many avenues for both of these guys to win within their own advantages. That's where it's so close. And I mean, if Marcos is able to manage the linear angle effectively, timing his combos and getting out quickly while also stuffing the takedowns, he can definitely win this fight and keep his 0. But if Montel Jackson mixes the range well and mixes his game up ultimately, I think he can win this too. So realistically, I'm not putting this anywhere near my bet slip, but I'm gonna be taking Montel Jackson just. I think realistically, I think it's going to be a 29-28 for him. I think he's very good at adapting to the game of other fighters, and he's just so weirdly difficult to fight with his height, with his reach, with his power, with his takedown offense. I mean, Marcos, if I'm Marcos, I'd be wanting to mix in my own takedown offense myself. Like, Montel Jackson is a guy that hasn't been super tested there, but I just can't really shy away from the 6.5-inch reach advantage and the power that he has as well. And Marcos, he does absorb triple the amount of strikes as well, but obviously the guy is durable as hell and is very good at neutralizing the power from the opposition from his tight guard. So it'll ultimately be a battle of volume, technical ability, and takedown defense on Marcos's end versus the power, the wrestling, and the physical advantages of Montel, which is where I am more favored in. I believe that Montel Jackson is going to be able to take that just. Moving up the card to Santiago Ponzinibbio versus D-Rod. Now, I swear there's like always these old timer kind of fights right up the card that are always on these fight nights. And I swear it's always one of these two fighters, but now they are fighting each other. And this will definitely be interesting to see because both of these guys, they're pretty even on the ground overall, pretty decent when it comes to defensive and offensive capabilities there. And also as well, they're opposite stances. So the strike speed is going to be pretty crucial here. And the strike speed is going to be on the side of Ponzinibbio realistically. Now, not counting out D-Rod, because if D-Rod can maintain consistent movement along the outside and keep a tight guard and keep it at like crystal clear boxing range, he's got the accuracy and the volume to jab Ponzinibbio's head off. But Ponzinibbio, his grittiness, I mean, it's continued to be a problem against like a lot of these just random opponents, which one is Alex Morono, who D-Rod barely beat the last time out, and Santiago Ponzinibbio broke his jaw. And then he also beat Carlston Harris recently. I think he's just looked more impressive overall recently. And look, there's definitely avenues for both, but I think the strike speed there realistically and the pressure overall of Ponzinibbio and how well he picked back up in that Carlston Harris fight shows he's still got some fight in him, and ultimately I'm liking him in this matchup by a 29-28 decision. I think he's going to get real gritty through the second and third round, and I believe D-Rod is going to take the first round with the boxing success. But yeah, Ponzi, the fresher guy, I think he's going to take it late. Now moving up to the highly anticipated co-main event, Reinier De Ridder versus Bo Nickal. Now this is a fight with a lot of questions, and it's a co-main event that I'm bloody keen for because it answers the questions. Can the biggest middleweight prospect, who is like the Jesus of wrestling coming into MMA, take out one of the most dangerous submission artists in the division? These guys going up against each other is going to be extremely interesting stylistically across pretty much any fight you could make within the middleweight division. But if you wanted to see how both Bo Nickal and Reinier De Ridder would fare against everyone else in the middleweight division, I highly recommend you check out their Fighter Spotlight tier list videos, which I will leave in the description. But back to this matchup, Bo Nickal, he's a moderate favorite in this matchup, as you can see on the screen, but I don't believe that that should be the case, especially after that Paul Craig performance. Honestly, I think it should be even odds. This is an evenly matched fight because Bo did not look good against Paul Craig by any stretch. He used no wrestling because he was concerned about the submission game, which you're going against RDR, you're going to have to be even more concerned about that submission game. And also, his striking was completely telegraphed. The overhands with nothing behind them, the lunging strikes, just no combinations, no fluidity in his striking. And if you do that, what he did against Paul Craig, against RDR, you're going to lose because RDR is literally just a better version of Paul Craig. He's got power in his hands, and he's taken out a few guys on the regional scene with his strikes, and he also slumped GM3 before submitting him in his debut. And not to mention, Reinier De Ridder taking this fight to the ground. Bo literally has to have perfect submission defense here, but also has to show the confidence in the striking department. Otherwise, he will lose. I do believe when it comes to that Paul Craig matchup, you're going to want to hope so, but I do believe realistically coming into this, I believe it's a huge wake-up call for Bo Nickal. I think he knows that he has to put the trust in his wrestling. And if it pays off here, it's going to give him a ridiculous amount of confidence because he's literally going to be outworking arguably the most dangerous submission artist in the division, especially from that bottom position. And I believe, honestly, that this will be a very close fight, but the striking, that's where it's going to be crucial, because the striking, I do believe it's going to be very back and forth, but Bo Nickal, I'm telling you, if he is not stringing fluid combinations together, Reinier De Ridder will get the better of him on the feet. That just will happen. And I do think that the power and the accuracy is on Reinier De Ridder's side more so, and then the speed is going to be on Bo. So if he has the speed there and he's landing more volume and stringing those combinations, he's got a great chance. But that's where I see Bo. I think he's going to have the confidence. I do believe he's going to switch it up. I think he was backed into a corner with that Craig fight, and he cannot deliver like that again. And I do see Bo transitioning well on top with the wrestling, but I do believe he will get placed in some dangerous positions from that bottom position with Reinier De Ridder, probably throwing up some omoplatas, possibly some guillotines, even Kimuras to try and force Bo Nickal to shift to a weaker position. And that's where it's going to be the control versus the danger from the submissions versus the very tight striking. I think this is just going to be ridiculously close because it's going to be subjective within the judge's decision. But I do believe it's going to be one of those controversial ones regardless for Bo Nickal. I think the striking will be razor close, but it will be that battle of control versus submission opportunities, which I do see Bo being given the nod, having that top position overall. I think it'll be a 29-28 decision. I think RDR will put him in some danger late when it comes to those submission opportunities. But I think the control time overall is just going to add up a little bit too much in this one. And moving up to our main event, we've got Cory Sandhagen versus Deiveson Figueiredo. And honestly, I'm happy with this matchup. Bantamweight just never fails to bloody deliver, honestly. One of, if not my favorite division, to be honest. This is just one of those fights where you just know it's going to be a very high fight IQ, entertaining fight. You've got to respect Figgy's move up to 135 because he's made the division better. He's gone 3-1. He's beaten Rob Font, which Rob Font, I do like Rob Font, but he's a bit dry, to be honest, and Figueiredo just adds that spark there because he took out Cody Garbrandt at UFC 300 to open up the card, and he was the first person to drop Marlon Vera. He's honestly looked incredible up until, of course, fighting Petr Yan, which Petr Yan with his resurgence, I mean, you don't really want to be fighting him if you're anyone, realistically. And when we're looking in this matchup, Cory Sandhagen, I do feel this guy, especially coming off that Umar fight, he's got a point to prove, and he is going to be dangerous. And he is similar in relation to Petr Yan, similar with the amount of tools that he does have and his ability on the ground too. And Deiveson, with him being 37 now, against a Cory Sandhagen, who is just as well-rounded as Petr Yan and has something to obviously prove off that Umar loss, I do believe that Figueiredo is in for another loss here, but I don't believe it's going to be without giving Cory a few wake-up calls. I think Cory's going to get stunned a few times in this fight because one thing you can never forget, Deiveson Figueiredo's power. And unless Cory lands that cold as fuck Frankie Edgar flying knee, there's only one way that this is going, and that is going to be a Cory Sandhagen decision win here. I think, like, Figgy is just someone that just doesn't fare the greatest against these technical switch stance strikers with very high outputs, and that's exactly Cory Sandhagen to a T. Petr Yan is another one like that, and Brandon Moreno proved to be like that as well in their last fight, and Brandon Moreno got that doctor's stoppage TKO against him. So we know Figueiredo doesn't fare against these guys with a lot of tools, a lot of speed, and the ability with the footwork. And Cory, honestly, with the ability that he does have and he possesses, he's a student of the game. He is just a difficult puzzle to solve. And honestly, that's where I think that he's going to be able to take this decision win. I think just with the high output, the weapons, the stance switching as well, mixing in the takedowns very well as well, I think it's just really going to play into his favor. Figueiredo, obviously very dangerous on the ground with his submission game, but if Umar is struggling to get Cory down a lot of the time, I don't see Figueiredo being able to take Cory down. So yeah, unless Deiveson can jump the gilly off Cory's takedown attempt. I just don't see a submission here for him, to be honest. And Cory's just very good defensively. Ever since he got choked out by Aljo, he's been very good defensively on the ground, and his transitions overall, we've seen what he did against Rob Font. We've literally seen him in some of those scrambles with Umar. I'm very confident with his ability on the ground. And yeah, if Umar's not controlling him, Figgy, just seriously, he's not. Now, that's where I think Cory, I just believe the footwork is going to be too much through that first round. Too much, going to utilize the jab very well. He does very good work on the outside early. But then I think Figueiredo, I think through to either the second or the third, he's going to have that frustration. And I do believe he's going to get more aggressive and he's going to have that power to equalize. He's going to stun Cory. Probably going to be the biggest shot of the fight, stun him. And then I think Cory's going to recover. And then I think through the third, fourth, and fifth, Cory is just going to utilize the volume, use the movement on the linear and lateral angles, and I just think he's going to be too much. I think he's going to be circling away from the power side very well, uses the leg kicks early, uses the jabs. I mean, Figgy's going to have to get used to the feints of Cory as well, and Cory's got good counter shots, and that's where I think that he's just going to be able to take this fight 49-46. Deiveson takes the second with the power equalizer. First, third, fourth, fifth. That is going to be Cory Sandhagen's win. And please give Cory Sandhagen a damn title shot if he wins this fight. I will riot if he doesn't, please. Now, moving up to the fight card awards, kicking it off with fight of the night, I gotta give it to Ilia Topuria Jr. versus Quang Lee. I think this is just going to be awesome because both these guys are super fast-paced. I mean, Gaston Bolanos, Ilia Topuria Jr., he is just a guy that has shown really nice Muay Thai. He's got really good defensive work on the ground. That's going to keep Quang Lee on the feet. And when Quang Lee is on the feet, he is a very fast-paced striker, balls to the wall. So I think we're going to get a lot of high output in this fight, and I'm very keen to see it. Now, finish of the night, I gotta give it to Mason Jones, dude. Like, honestly, Lil Heaven, he is a beast, but I think he's really up against it in this fight. Mason Jones, he's literally left the UFC, has gone on a 3-fight KO streak, and now he's coming back into this fight. I think he had one decision in there as well, but he's just been finishing everyone. And Mason Jones coming back into this, he knows he doesn't want to make the same mistake again and get cut from the UFC again. And there's one way that he's going to be able to make sure that happens, and that's by finishing Lil Heaven Stevens very nicely. And I think with that boxing, with the hunger, with the forward pressure, I think he's going to be able to get that one done. Now, moving on to performance of the night, I got to give it to Cory Sandhagen, just with that, honestly, with that footwork, the footwork that he has, the switch stance ability, his ability to use the linear angle and the lateral angle extremely well, circle out to the power, away from the power side, utilizing high volume strikes. I think he's just going to be too much for Figgy in this one. Now, upset of the night, absolutely no one. Got no one in the upset of the night, not applicable, because I've chosen all the favorites like the true fucking casual I am. Now, fighter to watch, gotta look out for Azamat Bekoev. Azamat Bekoev, he is dangerous. Look back at his regional scene fights. The guy is a KO machine. He's just a finishing machine. He has a lot of confidence. He's got a lot of power in his hands. And honestly, I think Loder is going to be feeling that power. Now, I hope you enjoyed this predictions and breakdown video, and I hope you enjoy the card this weekend, and I have just left a video on the screen for your entertainment. If you do want to check that one out, I highly recommend it, and please like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.